Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Podcast once again. Now it's been 2 years, time really flies, and I would like to touch upon a few things about the whole journey of my podcasting. So when I embarked on this adventure, I was charting my own course, eager and curious about where the path would lead. What I hadn't fully appreciated was how deeply intertwined my journey would be with those incredible individuals I have had the privilege of speaking with. With each conversations, each story shared has not only been their remarkable life, but has also become a part of my own different ways of experiences. We navigated different peaks and valleys about their existence, celebrated triumphs, shared the vulnerability of setbacks, wearing different kind of narratives that transcends our individual stories as well. That being said, today, our conversation is also just like sharing some of the stories. I have an immense pleasure welcoming my our guest who embodies the spirit of those shared journeys and profound connections. A person who was once in this show. I think it was around 1.5 years back, and since become a dear friend. Maya Payal Mitra. Maya's story is one of those of resilience, passion, relentless pursuit of dream, and to inspire everyone out there, including me. And there's a reason because the last time when we discussed, she has some plans. She was already on her own journey. And now, after 1.5 years, there's so much happened. We thought, let's try to connect back and understand how those journey looks like. So let me add Maya to the stream. So Maya, welcome back to Let's Talk Podcast. I'm so excited to have the conversation again with you.
Thank you, Saurabh. It's always a delight and a pleasure to be back here. It feels like coming back home. And yes, I guess we both have traversed our own paths in our own way. And the journey's been very exciting and very fruitful so far. So thank you so much.
The pleasure is all mine. It's always the guests like you who do all those incredible things, which compels me to bring them back and share with the world. So, Maya, if you recall, we had a pretty long conversation. And for the people who haven't seen that, you can go to YouTube or Spotify, search for Maya in my episodes. You can see that we have divided into two parts back in the day because it was too long. And the reason is because there are so many things to share. Maya has uh, shown how exactly she has certain dreams in her life, and she let go the cushy professional life of, or the corporate life rather, and then try to pursue the dream, not living by default, but creating its own, her own design. So that being said, obviously we will the people who would like to kind of understand where she came from, you can listen or watch that episode as well. So Maya, let's try to start where we left off. So one and a
Right.
half years back, what we were discussing, what were your plans and
Mhm.
how those shape up at this point in time?
It's been quite an interesting journey, Saurabh. And I think our conversation, what we had almost a year and a half, was also the time I was just
Mm.
starting out as an independent coach and consultant, as an entrepreneur, an aspiring entrepreneur, I would say, because I was just starting out. I had kind of very recently hung up my corporate boots. I had taken a 2 years break from my corporate career, and then I was here kind of, I had newly shifted to the Silicon Valley of India, which is Bangalore city. And I was, working on my business plan. And as I think we live in a VUCA and a Bani world, and one needs to be agile. And so I kind of, went out there with my dreams and aspirations and really tweaked the offering, and various different iterations has happened. And today, what I have, the service offerings that I have today, It's primarily an outcome of the various iterations that has happened in the last 1.5 years of going out to the market, testing the waters, and seeing what is acceptable and what is it that the clients want more of, and how can I really serve them, coming in from that understanding and really going back and therefore tweaking my offering and tweaking my approach. And lo and behold, last month I was able to launch my brand Move with Myah,
Oh,
and we
wow.
have a brand new website, so that's out there. So yeah, I think there's a little more of structure, I would say, a little more of finesse, if you will. So that's how it's been so far. It's been quite an interesting journey, and I'm excited to see how this shapes up in the near future.
That's great. So move with Maya. So that's a pretty catchy and I think
Yes,
interesting name as well. Oh
this
yes,
is this is the
great,
brand
great. So
love.
maybe the next time I'll be there. So I'll book one of the T-shirt for myself as well.
Yay.
Yeah.
Already
So
we already have captive audience here.
oh, perfect. Yes, exactly. So that's great. So let's try to, because again, our podcast is not only about the outcome, but the journey and different
Absolutely.
phases,
Mm,
right?
mm,
So you
mm,
mentioned about Mobit Maya, and you have an amazing website, which I have seen. I think it has a lot of testimonials, pictures, just to get an inside peek of your journey, what you're doing, and
mhm,
most importantly, for the people who would like to have some professional services, how
mhm,
exactly they look into the website. So
mhm.
let's kind of get back to the process here, right? So you, as you mentioned that you were just starting off, you were trying to find some structure.
Mm.
What are some of the major challenges you face? Because that's where people always fear. So what are those? I would say the top one, two, or three challenges you faced before getting to this point.
Okay, so I think I would like to look at this question from a point of, how did I crack my 0 to 1, which is basically, getting the first client. And therefore, when you
Mm.
have the first client and then you move on to the other, and, once
Of course,
the
yes.
work speaks for
Mm.
itself, then you are already on a roll. So I think the journey from 0 to 1 is what was exciting, and I can probably talk a little more about that. So what really worked out for me is my content. So as you probably know, that very recently I got nominated and selected as LinkedIn Top Voice 2024, and I
Oh,
have been writing on LinkedIn since the last 2 years. And since the time I started writing, I think there was certain relatability with regards to what I write, because large part of my writing comes from my own lived experience of having been in the corporate for more than 15 plus years, almost close to 2 decades of being in the tech industry and big four management consulting, and therefore understanding some of the pains and challenges, and now also understanding the modern day landscape, the workplace landscape, because a lot has changed in the post pandemic world. And therefore really kind of going in from my own understanding of the complexities and the dynamics of the modern workplace, and not being an outsider, not really having much of a view or an insider understanding, but really having an insider understanding, and then marrying it with my knowledge of the psychology of mental health and working with somatic intelligence. I think that's what I have been able to bring out through the content that I create primarily on LinkedIn. And therefore through the content is how I have been able to kind of reach out to the right set of audience. My target group, my target set of audience primarily are the CXOs and the CHROs, who are sitting largely on LinkedIn as a platform, because that's the largest global professional platform. So when I'm out there creating content which speaks to them, that's when I kind of get into a lot of these messages and DMs and initiate conversations, and largely through that I have been able to bag my first client. And then how one client gets you another one,
yes,
and the
to the
next
other
one,
one.
because then you kind of start experimenting and understanding. And I think what has really worked for me is the fact that I think you also mentioned in the beginning, is that I'm very persistent person. I don't give up very easily, and even if it's not working, I would go back, tweak something, try to find out what is it that I can improve. And I really love to take feedback from my clients and customers that I serve. So really go back to them and see what is it that worked for you, what is it that did not work for you, and what could I do differently, and what could I do better. I think really getting this kind of a feedback from all the customers that I've worked so far has really worked in my favor and in my benefit. And just to share this with you, that today, 50% of my clientele are from word of mouth and
Hmm.
repeat business, because people come back to me if they have done workshops with me in the past. They will come back to me for the next year, or they will refer some of their friends in the HR network or colleagues that they know who are looking out for the kind of services that I do offer. And this is where I think is where the success of my business largely lies, because the work kind of speaks for itself. And that
That's
is
great.
something I've been
Yeah.
really fortunate to be able to establish in the market. Yes.
So let me ask you this in a lighter mood as well, because if the people who are joining for the first time and haven't seen the previous conversation, and
Mhm.
they heard Move with Maya, so is it a kind of a dance academy, or they something serious?
That's a good question. Yes, I get asked that a lot, Saurabh. I get asked that a lot. So let me
Yeah,
kind of try and break it down for you.
yeah.
Why move and what is
Or
move,
maybe
and
what exactly you do? Maybe the first time when people like, what
Hmm.
exactly your foundation? What is your business?
Sure, right. Okay. Let me kind of, break that up for you. So, I am largely in the space of somatic intelligence. I am a somatic leadership and career transition coach. And the work that I do is in the sphere of somatic intelligence. Now, you may ask, okay, what is somatic intelligence and how is it different from, let's say, other processes that one would work with? Now, somatic intelligence or somatic coaching primarily works on the interconnectedness of the mind, body, and emotions. Right. So mind, body, and emotion. So when we are able to, every feeling that we have in our heart, in our body, that kind of affects the way we think. And if we move through, when we are moving through a certain way, in a certain way, when we move the body, then there is a likely shift in the way we think, in the way we perceive, and therefore our actions also get shifted and moved. And therefore the word move is not just move as in movement of the body, but it is also movement of the spirit, movement of the mind, movement of the feelings, movement of the emotions, movement of you as an individual in terms of your acceleration in your life and your career, movement of you as an organization. So therefore the word move plays a huge importance in the kind of work that I do. Because
Mhm.
again, primarily most of my work, the methodology that I use is the principles or the methodologies that I used are based on movement therapy. And therefore it's very important to understand why move and how is it important. Movement is actually a metaphor for life. And this is something I think I also had shared in the previous conversation, where I'd given the example of primarily the first language that a baby gets to learn is that of movement.
Mhm.
And so, therefore, movement is akin to life, movement is akin to growth, transformation. And I am in the business of growth and transformation of individuals, of organizations, through the work that I do in the sphere of leadership coaching and development, in the sphere of diversity inclusion workshops, and in the sphere of employee well being and corporate wellness. And also for individuals, the career transition coaching that, services that I do offer. Now, coming back to again the word move, I have actually now used it to build an acronym for my
Mhm.
business, which is Move to Move. The word move is actually an acronym. And
Okay.
people who are watching this or listening to this can go back to my website and can learn more about it. The word move, it's move to move, move to meet, m for meet, move to meet your fears, move to meet yourself, move to meet your inhibitions, your
That's
feelings,
nice. Yeah.
your colleagues, your future, your desired self. O is move to observe. So move to observe your feelings, move to observe your emotions. Then V is visualize. Move to visualize your desired future, move to visualize your desired state, move to visualize your desired organizational culture. and E is to express. So move to express your feelings, your happiness, your emotions, your vulnerabilities. So therefore the word move is an acronym, and that's the framework that we use in the work that we are doing largely.
Okay, okay, that's interesting. So I have a lot of questions in terms of like how a person who is just listening this for the first time. I know a bit about it, but I just want to make sure how the listeners or viewers are processing this. So you mentioned
Mm-hmm.
about the leadership. You mentioned about move. So is it a conventional leadership coach thing? They come, they provide slides, they provide seminars, presentations where you have to warm your bum for 7 8 hours, come back and
I
maybe
love that
still
example.
scratching still scratching your back that oh, this is something which is good. Does it? So what exactly it is, how we move and how we move other things apart from our body, as
Mm,
you mentioned.
sure.
I'm interested.
Sure, absolutely. So everything about my workshop is unconventional. That is something I can give it to you in writing. There is no conventional
Mm,
methodologies that we use, and it is definitely beyond bullet points and PowerPoint presentation. I mean, although I come in from a consulting background of having worked in Big Four, so I
mm,
know how consultants can be, and coaches can be, and trainers can be. Kind of showing you things on a
mm,
PowerPoint presentation, the concepts. So here's what is different about the kind of work that I do, and perhaps you know from a
mhm,
traditional coach or a trainer, is the fact that most of my work is in the embodied learning space. And what that means is that I don't necessarily tell you or show you, but I involve you, right? And they say, where there's this famous quote that goes by, if you tell me, I forget. If you
mhm.
show me, I remember. But if you involve me, I learn.
Yes.
So that's exactly the the sphere on which we work, which is basically to get the participants fully and wholly engaged in the kind of activities that we do, purely which is in an experiential zone, which is what we called VAK experience. V stands for visual, auditory, kinesthetic. So VAK, visual, auditory, kinesthetic. So all your senses are involved. So it's a highly sensory, experiential kind of workshops that we lead. So therefore, chances are, and this has happened almost 100% of the times, that you have to be 100% fully present in the workshop. And no matter whether it's in a physical space or if it's in a digital space, I have also delivered workshops in hybrid delivery models as well, where we have certain participants in the room and also certain participants in a online space. But in all of these, we have seen how the activation or the participation has been 100%. So there are no chances that you will be through the workshop and you will not participate, which can also
Mhm,
be a
mhm.
case for many other workshops, where you are probably physically there but not really mentally there. But here in
So
my
how
workshops, it just cannot happen.
so how you make sure that people are involved? That may be one of
Because
my
through
questions.
the set of activities, through the set of
Okay.
activities,
So
it's
can
it's just that.
maybe I would say one thing. Maybe we can kind of if you can help us to kind of walk through an example of what you do, so that people can visualize. Oh, this is what exactly you do.
Okay, okay, let me see if I can give you an example. Okay, so let's say, for example, so a lot of people do unconscious bias training, right? So
Mm,
unconscious bias training is something that is very much in demand right now, because a lot of organizations are doing a lot of diversity, inclusion, awareness. So they are also kind of trying to bring up these conversations into the mainstream and really make people more aware of the unconscious biases and the unconscious choices that
mm,
sometimes while we may have larger consequences for the other persons involved. And again, there's a lot of I would say content out there. You go to internet, you can find a lot of videos and a lot of content out there, and there are so many other people who might be also working in this sphere and delivering these kind of sessions. But the kind of workshops that I do deliver on this particular topic, say for example, it's again purely experiential, and largely all of it is to be able to help you understand, because this itself, unconscious bias itself, is a very sensitive topic, and not everybody is kind of comfortable to come into their skin and talk about it. A lot of the times our vulnerabilities are going to be exposed when we are talking about a sensitive topic like that. And so what we need to do is, first and foremost, me as a coach, as a facilitator, as a trainer, I need to ensure that I have built the trust of my participants. That's step number one, so that they
Mhm.
can now trust in me and the process, and therefore come in from their space of opening up and maybe sharing their vulnerabilities. And so large part of of the first set of the workshop would be to sort of build the trust and build the rapport between the coach and the trainer and the participants. And once that we have established that, which probably can take 10 to 15 minutes depending on the number of participants in the room. And again, this is something we do largely through activities, through games, where people will come in and they will the ice breaking activities are all about getting you into a childlike self, so that you are tapping in, you move out of the head and you move into the body. The moment you tap into your childlike self, you tap into your sense of curiosity, that is when chances are you are operating lesser from a head space and operating more from a somatic space. And that's exactly what we do. We flip the conversation, we flip the
Mhm.
switch, because the more you try to use your cognitive intelligence, you want to be politically correct, you want to say the
Mhm.
right things, you want to be diplomatic, you do not want to ruffle some few feathers, because hey, I want to be right all the time, and maybe this is a conversation for a later day or a different time. And therefore, while we know this is not right, but we don't want to talk about it, or we don't want to kind of bring it up. But this is where
Got it.
we kind of
Mm.
take them into the process where now they are able to come into their own self of really dropping the head level, and therefore coming in and tapping into the somatic space. And when we start tapping into the somatic space, that is when we go to step number 2, which is expose them to the thematic area. Say for example, if we are working on unconscious bias, some of the activities that I would do is perhaps, and again, this is something we have tried classically and seen in all kinds of groups, Saurabh, and I can tell you this from my experience, is that largely in a group, in a mixed group of men versus women, how many hands go up when we ask a certain question around,
Mm.
say, physical capability, in terms of, okay, say, who can touch the ceiling? It's a random
Okay.
question, right? It's a random question. But when we say, hey, who can touch the ceiling? 90% of the men will put their hand up. None of the women would. But then why? I have not said that you cannot take a resource. You can probably use a ladder to sort of use it, or stand on a table, or whatever it is, or stand on somebody's shoulder to make it happen. But they would not largely try and think, because it is, again, we are coming in from an unconscious bias of, how can I do this, or can I really do this? Can women do that? You know, so
Hmm.
this is again something,
Interesting.
so this largely kind of showing them through their own understanding. And that's when we kind of try and break the ice and introduce them to the topic. And that's when we are more open, in our body language, we are more open from our cognitive abilities, and we are more open from the heart space also, to be able to now listen, hear, and understand and reflect. And that is all about embodied experience, embodied learning, and that's exactly what we do.
That's great. So I'm sure you have so many experiences. Walk us through any kind of you can experience recall which has really touched you or resonated, or recent experience by the participant about one
Mm-hmm.
of the feedbacks, right? Because as you mentioned, for example, unconscious bias, there are a lot of things who, and because of the whole reason, because it's unconscious, people aren't aware. So any example on any kind of a topic which really makes your maybe a day filled with gratitude and fulfillment, that wow, this is something really makes a difference of a person's life. So any example you would like to share?
Yes, of course. Every workshop that I do, it definitely, makes me feel happy from the impact that it creates and the energy that we're able to generate, largely because of the energy that we're able to generate, the sense of engagement, the sense of we are part of something. And I'll tell you, and I'll tell you about a very recent experience because it's kind of fresh on my mind. Like last month, the month of March, we kind of, celebrated IWD, which is International Women's Day, and many organizations wanted to celebrate it and have different external facilitators and coaches come in to do certain workshops, etc. And so I delivered quite a few workshops across different organizations, traveled quite a bit to to be able to facilitate them. And in one of the organizations that I delivered this particular workshop, the theme was around building, or rather fostering, inclusive work cultures. So fostering inclusive work cultures, what does that mean? When we are talking about inclusion, what does inclusion mean? How does diversity look like for us? And so one of the activities that I kind of did for them was, this was again something, like I said, I don't necessarily go into the classroom or the training by telling them, hey, we're going to do this activity and therefore we're going to derive this particular outcome from it, but just kind of go into the room, give them some activity, and then let them understand or let them decode what was it that we were trying to do, and therefore this exercise or this activity perhaps, right? So in this particular workshop, what I did was I kind of went around the room with a few colored ribbons in my hand, and I just randomly passed it on to a few set of participants, very particularly and consciously leaving behind quite a few others. And now they were like, okay, why are we left behind, and like why are we not part of this? And the moment I would go in front of them with the ribbon, very instinctively and intuitively, many people would reach out, would
Yeah,
want to hold that ribbon, because I
yeah.
want to belong, I want to be a part of something. Now whatever that something was, but not was not even identified, was not even being shared, that we are part of whatever X, that was not even articulated, but everybody wanted to be part of something, whatever that something was. And therefore the learning came boom from the room itself, because we all want to belong, we all want to be part of something. That something could be anything. We want to be part of something larger than us. So therefore, coming in from the space of belongingness and inclusion. And what does exclusion mean? When I did not pass over the ribbon to you, you were naturally excluded. Now who makes the choice for you, and what control do you have on that choice? How does
Hmm.
that impact you? So this was again, then driving in the conversation from there, rather than telling them, hey, this is inclusion, this is exclusion, and therefore we are here to talk about inclusive work cultures. So this is how, when they kind of come back to me with that sort of a feedback, that wow, this exercise was so simple, yet it was so skin deep, because now we really understand that everybody wants to belong, right? It's such a primal human need, isn't it?
Exactly. I think that's a great way of. So, I mean, I'm thinking that you provided the example of excluding and all these courses. I mean, I'm very intrigued. Like when you develop these courses or these included or these different kind of games or fun activities, I think a
Hmm.
person only those people can do that who, I mean, as a coach who has
Hmm.
some interest in human psyche or psychology or
Absolutely.
motivation, because I'm very interested, even though I have never studied officially about human psychology, what drives people, what motivates people.
Mm.
How
Mm.
much interest you have developed, or maybe you help us walk through, like when you develop these courses, uh not obviously giving the secret sauce, but a general way of understanding, like what exactly you read, think, or do to understand that this is
That's the
exactly
secret
how
sauce.
people.
If I give you my resource list, that's the secret sauce.
No, not resource. Like what are some of the things to
No,
prepare
I will tell
on
you.
these?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah.
So very interestingly, I mean, very interesting question here, Saurabh, and because I want to also kind of share this with you, and I know perhaps you are already aware of it because we had done our previous episode where I had mentioned that I come in from a hardcore engineering background. I'm a telecommunication engineer by qualification and profession, and thereafter did my masters in business administration in marketing. And I was never ever perhaps 10 years back I never ever thought that I would be an entrepreneur or even start doing something crazy as this, which is still very nascent and new across the globe. But then I think my own life's journey kind of got me into into that sense of intrigue, into that sense of curiosity,
Mhm.
and really tapping into my intuition and curiosity got me into studying movement therapy, dance movement therapy from Tata Institute of Social Sciences in 2014, and being a part of their first maiden batch in India, when it was started. And again, over there they had called out that they were looking for students from sociology, psychology, and MSW background. I had none of that, but still I applied, and I was able to convince them through my essay, through my interview, and I got through it. But largely what happened is that while studying it, because we had certain modules around mental health, we had modules around human psychology, so this was a part of the course that we studied, and therefore the interest started growing from there to really understand basic human psychology. And now it's almost like um, it's almost like
You're close to a psychologist.
I no, I wouldn't
Yeah.
say I'm a psycho. I'm definitely not a psychologist, not a
Yeah.
a psychiatrist or a
Mhm.
psychotherapist. These are again different professionals. Clinical psychology is very
Mhm.
different from
Yeah.
a psychiatrist or a psychosomatic, person. So these are all very different professions, and therefore we my work is in the sphere of somatic movement therapy. And so therefore again I am a certified movement therapy practitioner, but not a therapist. There is a difference between that. So therefore understanding the basic fundamentals and the basic building blocks of psychology and mental health really helps. However, I would really like to stress upon the point that working with people on the ground is which is actually is your practical uh, you know um, uh, um, I would say practical experience. That is your ground to learn. Reading, I mean, it's as good as like if you want to learn swimming and you watch 200 videos on YouTube, what is going to happen?
Mhm. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have to go and jump into the pool one day. Like really, if you really want to learn how to swim, you have to go into the pool or the open waters and really learn how to swim, right? So you can't really keep watching YouTube videos and reading books about how to learn swimming, but you have to go out there. So I think a large part of the experience comes in from really working and really trying various different exercises and activities with different sets. By experience now we know that this particular exercise or this particular activity will work for this kind of a audience versus it will not work for this kind of an audience. So therefore nothing and everything that I kind of deliver or curate is very much in the sphere of bespoke. Everything is totally customized and it is bespoke. Nothing is off the shelf. So you cannot, even if you go to my website, you cannot literally buy something like purchase here something. There's no such button as purchase now or book now. Yes, of course you can book a
Yeah.
consultation call
Yeah.
with me, but you cannot purchase something which is directly off the shelf, because there's a large part of it is in consultation, understanding what is exactly your need. It's a co-creation process. It's almost like you coming into a doctor and saying, hey, I have a pain now. I need to know where is the pain. Is it in the head? Is it in the chest? Is it on your arm? And then prescribe you the right sort of a medicine.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a great way because, as you mentioned, that not only you are providing some awareness to the people whom you associate with, you also providing some direction, like what are the
Yes.
next step. Uh,
Yes.
Keeping that thought in mind, So once your engagements, first of all, like how long are those engagements? Because as you mentioned, these are like customized.
Hmm.
And what happens once the engagement is done? Is there any individually employees to the organization they reach out for further steps, or how exactly that process looks like?
Sure, sure. Thanks for asking this. So there are various different models in which we work, Saurabh. So one is definitely, once we are doing these, 1 day or 2 day interventions, what we do is largely we also do a pre and post, survey analysis to check whatever the metrics that the business or the organization wants us to measure. We are able to do a pre and post sort of a, check in that. And now if they really want us to work on a leadership journey, on a leadership coaching journey or a coaching experience, that is more of a long term engagement, which could be anywhere between 3 to 12 months or even more. And therefore if we are designing something on a coaching journey or a leadership journey, then it is more of a continued journey, more of a continued, a process. So the workshops and the modules are built to take you to more advanced level. So right now, say we are working with a bunch of organizations who want to work, who have given us the responsibility to work with three different set of leaders within the organization. One is your first time managers, the second is your what they call it as the managerial edge, which is basically your mid-level managers who are 5 to 10 years of experience. And then we have the CXOs, the AVPs and the VPs who are in that senior leadership position, and then we are working with them on different modules. So first time managers, we are working on certain different modules which will definitely not be relevant for people with 20 plus years of experience. So again, for each of these cohorts, we have different set of programs that we design, curate and deliver. Again, the delivery methodology will be different, the impact analysis will be different basis what is it that we want to look at an outcome for this particular cohort. And therefore this is something which is created in consultation with the the sponsor of the particular program. So whether it is the HR head, whether it is the SBU head or the CXO or the founder who's actually running this particular or owning this particular process.
Hmm. Actually, what you just explained give me an impression that it's too much of hard work for you because it's pretty dynamic. It's not a cookie cutter, which
It's
means
not
that
at all.
you cannot 100% recycle because every organization, human being, requirements and the way in the path of their journey there is different. So I'm sure that when you have a conversation with them, you understand what are those employees, what the metrics and all those things. So how you, I mean, as an individual,
Hmm.
do you feel stress or hard work like every time you have to reinvent yourself? Because that may be, I think a lot of people must resonating that what you explain so much, it requires a lot of work. And
Oh
so, what do you
yes.
think? How you scale
But I
these
think
things?
that's what keeps my life exciting, Saurabh. Yeah, because
Yeah.
this is, I mean, you said it right, because you can't really recycle, you can't
Mhm.
really kind of repurpose the same content and put it in a new bucket and kind of deliver. Yes, however, having said that, there are certain basic functionalities which we work with, and that can be replicated in many different ways. And the basic premise, the basic structure sort of remains same, but the activities we may want to differ, what we are measuring, the metrics may be different. But again, I think, largely to me, if you ask me now, it's almost like my second self. It's almost like, comes very natural to me, because
Natural.
large part of it is, again, it's almost like, like the way they say it, if you're truly passionate about it, can you wake up at 2 o'clock in the night and talk about it? Well, in my case, I can. And then, which is why, if you come and ask me, hey, can you design a workshop A, B and C, and tomorrow you've got to deliver, boom, I still can do it, and I've done it. And I'll give you specific examples of, I have had two examples actually. I mean, and especially, In
Yes.
the last couple of months, I've been traveling quite a lot every month to 6 to 7 different cities, primarily delivering these kind of workshops. Most organizations today want these workshops to happen in person, and therefore, I have to kind of travel to particular cities to deliver these workshops. And it has so happened that I was traveling from I think from Mumbai to Bangalore. Bangalore is where I live. And I got this particular call while I was at the airport, that, hey, will you be able to deliver XYZ program in Goa? There's a client who's asking for this kind of a program. And I'm like, I just really arrived at Bangalore. And they're like, yes, we exactly have one day. Can you go back, pack for yourself for this particular, location, which was Goa, and then next day you have to travel. And I was like, yes, I can do it. And I did it with such less of a time. I literally came back home, unpacked, because I think Bangalore, Mumbai weather was different from Goa weather at that particular point in time. And so I had to pack myself for Goa, and then, be ready with the content, be ready with what we want to deliver for the client. And there I was. Another example of somebody, calling in from Chennai, saying that, hey, we have this program in mind, but it's just day after tomorrow. Can you fly down to Chennai? And from, it was not even in Chennai, it was actually in Mahabalipuram again, which is like you have to drive even further from Chennai airport. And we literally had half a day to sort of sit and design the content, and for them, and it was for a very large group of 200 plus folks, and 4 hours of workshop that I had to deliver. But I have done it, and I know, because most of it is like, we have done it so many times that it's almost become like your second nature. So while you say yes, some kind of stress is actually good. So that's what keeps you more productive, keeps you in the flow zone. And I would like to say that yes, it is exciting. And this is the kind of,
Mhm.
so the word they use is eustress. Eustress is the kind of stress which is good for you, not
That's
de-stress.
it. So
Yes.
actually, let's talk a bit about this part because I think a lot of people who may be in the journey of starting something new would like to
Hmm.
get some insights on that. So, as you mentioned, and few of the points which you mentioned is very profound. Is first, when you do a certain kind of things, as you keep on doing them in a different form, obviously the foundation is the same. You become what we say the situational fluency, right? You quickly
Yes.
adapt the things based on that,
Yes.
and quickly kind of transform, keeping the same essence and the impact, because
Absolutely.
now you're subconsciously also you're doing that.
Yes.
As you mentioned, at 2 a.m. you
Yes.
can give some presentation, and that exactly is very important for everyone to listen.
Hmm.
Practice, believe what you do, eventually it will become
Hmm.
so pretty, I mean, what you do
It
when you
becomes
go
your
in
second nature. Yeah.
second nature, exactly, that's the word.
Yes.
So now help us walk through maybe some examples, like
Hmm.
when you did first or second gig with some of the client versus what you're doing right now, not about the technical skill set which you have developed,
Hmm.
the emotional journey, the way nervousness. If you help us
Yes.
through like first or second, and obviously not everything good, maybe some of the mistakes which you did, which or someone gave you a negative feedback, or this is not the way, or we didn't like it, which you tried
Hmm.
to work it, and now obviously you are much more in a better situation, and people perceive you as an expert. But yeah, help us walk through maybe your first or second engagements and what you learn
Sure.
and those challenges.
Sure. I think it's a great question, Saurabh, because I think, all of us at some point in time start from scratch and start from zero. Well,
Mhm.
interestingly for me, my starting from scratch happened from the space of me absolutely choosing to do something drastically different, while
Yeah.
I was sitting with 17 plus years of experience. But that was experience in a very different domain, and perhaps some of it was, yes, cross functional, which has worked for me, and is working for me. But a large part of it is also something which I had to learn on the job, really go out there and learn. Because here I was like, okay, this is the first time I'm actually going to be doing this kind of a program for a corporate client, while I have been a coach in my previous organization, but that was an internal coach for my particular organization. So
Mhm.
standing in front of people, training them or coaching them wasn't new to me. But then when you are operating as an independent consultant and an independent coach, the stakes are much higher, right?
Yes.
So therefore the chances of you being really stressed about it, or really having those sweaty palms, is just but normal. And there's no, I mean, you shouldn't really make bones about it. What worked in my benefit is the fact that for the first few gigs I really uh, spent more time in preparation, because I really spent, and I also made sure that I had more than one conversation with the client so that I get their brief correctly and to the T. Now, today, if you come and you give me 20 minutes and boom, you say tomorrow is the workshop, I can still deliver. But when I started off, 1.5 years back, for that one day program, I think we probably had some 10 conversations, and
That's
that was
great.
that was important.
I
That was
think
important.
that's good. Sorry to interrupt. Just want to make sure that that key thing which you just mentioned is so important, and then you can proceed. Which is obviously the preparation. The first time, second time, third time, you require a lot of preparation because, and the other part is a lot of thing at stake.
Hmm.
You don't have much of the recourse because you're doing something entrepreneurial. It's not
Yes.
attached to any organization that you can get a separate gig and you're still getting the salary coming in. So
Hmm.
obviously that is totally normal. That is human. But I think what you
Hmm.
did is a solid preparation. And I think one thing I liked about it is that you have multiple sessions with the clients. And this is very important. The reason is, oh, I thought this, oh, I thought that, and there's always miscommunication.
Yes.
So we have to
Yes.
make sure, and
Yes.
specifically
Yes.
when you're starting new, that you got
Absolutely.
everything, paraphrase, put it on email or something, is that, or record
Totally.
the sessions
Totally.
so that
Totally.
when you are speaking, mostly you may not reflect much. So record a session or review and see that exactly what I
And just to
thought I.
add to that, Saurabh, yeah, just to add to that, in my first few initial assignments that I worked with some of the clients in the first, a few months, what I do, and still I try to do it as much possible, is that go beyond the brief, which is basically, deliver more than they ask for. So I was really involved in the process, not just as a vendor, but as a team member, as a partner. So I
Mhm.
really went on to asking them questions where I probably didn't need any involvement. I wanted, like, for me, they have given me a 3 hour slot. Okay, you come and you deliver. This is it. That's all we want from you. But I went back to asking, okay, tell me a little bit about your organization. Tell me a little bit about, the team, and the dynamic, and so on and so forth. And what is it that you are going to do in the next 2 days? What is the agenda look like, and who are the set of people, etc., etc. And I went, over and above, and that's what the client appreciated, that we feel you're a part of the team. We feel that you are, involved as much as a part of the team, and not just a vendor who's coming in just saying, okay, this is my 2 hour slot, this is my 3 hour slot, and I'm going to do whatever is required of me. I don't really know what's happening before and after, and I couldn't care less. But rather than having that approach, I have, and most of the times I still do continue that approach wherever it's possible, to understand,
Mhm.
okay, it is not just a one off thing which probably doesn't fit well into the entire programmatic design, but really kind of make sure that there is a seamless flow. And I always try to connect the dots. So from in the morning, XYZ has happened, and now can be kind of move through whatever has happened and give them a thread or a connecting line now, so that they can, come into my session with certain, shall we say, seamless flow. So this has always been my endeavor, to make sure that you over deliver, under promise, and over deliver if you can.
Yeah. Okay. That's great actually. So I have this question around, like, as you're running this as a solopreneur, right? What's your thought on scaling and a human fear? For example, like you up. So what we have discussed so far is your journey, struggles. You are now getting to a success zone. You are getting all the right things. All your ducks are in the row. However, you are human, which means that you may fall sick, have
Mm-hmm.
something or the other. You don't have
Mm-hmm.
any fallback. How
Mm-hmm.
exactly you deal with those fears? Or because as a right, I mean, as a lone person doing the business, have you thought of scaling later on, or you are more comfortable because it provides you that flexibility and autonomy? Uh, so,
Sure.
what's your thought around that part for
Yeah,
people,
absolutely.
for you and any other people who are like running a business as a
Hmm.
solopreneur?
No, it's absolutely a fair question to ask, Saurabh, because yes, as a one-person company, it's a heavily dependent, owner-dependent business, and therefore I have had this fear and I've had this thought in my mind quite so often. And so which is what I do is that I do have a set of people who are in my network, who are all trained experts in their field, and many of the times I do co-create and co-facilitate with them whenever it is needed, whenever it is required for the particular client. And
Hmm.
so it's not always necessarily that I have to be the person who's delivering it. If god forsaken, for some reason I am ill and not able to travel, etc., I do have a set of folks that can kind of
Wonderful.
do it in my place. But yes, of course, there I mean, these are all set of people who are trained, who are certified, and they can deliver. But primarily I think going forward, I may want to look at it because I am in the services industry. And
Yeah.
services industry, it's again, the quality of the services matters a lot. So how can we really standardize? And therefore, even if I am possibly, which has not happened so far, that even if I'm co-creating, I'm co-leading, I'm still in the room, I'm still very
Yeah.
much a part of the design process, very much a part of the delivery process. But if I were not to be a part of the delivery process, I would make sure that there is seamless understanding in the design process, so that the delivery kind of you know is done in a manner that the client should not have a problem. that's
So
that's
that's
what
it. Yeah.
Yes, that's
Okay.
something as a business owner I can only endeavor. But it hasn't
Mhm.
happened so far, so I think we will only get to know when we get there.
Get there. But I think you again provided a good point, which again I have to highlight, is that even if you are a sole business owner, you still have some contact, and that's why I think building a community is so important. You are their business owners, but in case something goes south, then you should have some people to lean on and
Sure.
try to work on. So that is a
Absolutely.
very good, and obviously you can scale as well. One thing which I was trying to ask you for some time right now is about some
Mhm.
of those. What do you call these certificates or some names which I can see here? Would you like to give some information what kind of laurels you have achieved so far?
Okay, okay. So yeah, I mean, I think sort of from the time we met last to now, I think very interestingly at the beginning of this year, 2024, I mean, I very particularly remember, I woke up this one morning, and if I'm not mistaken, it was probably 10th of January.
Hmm.
Because it was almost like 10th of January. I remember this day for many different reasons. And 10th of January, I woke up the morning, and there was an email in my inbox which says, which was from LinkedIn, that hey, you have been chosen as the LinkedIn top voice. Go and go on your profile and use the badge, and kind of update the badge. And I was like, what does this even mean? Like, is this for real, or somebody's playing a joke on me? And I was like, no, I don't really understand this. And but then it was the truth, and I am I mean, I have been awarded and nominated as a LinkedIn top voice in 2024. That is the beginning of the year, and
That's
really
great.
very happy to be recognized as one of the chosen voices on LinkedIn. Also because of the fact that being a somatic leadership coach, I think on LinkedIn, perhaps I am the only somatic leadership coach with the movement therapy, background, who is also a LinkedIn top voice globally. And I think that's what makes my profile, stand out and be very different. While there are so many other LinkedIn top voices and so many other LinkedIn top voices in the leadership space, but not particularly in the somatic leadership space, even at a
Mhm.
global level. And I think
So,
that's something I'm really, really happy and proud to have that badge of honor.
oh, definitely you should be, and again, there's one more. I would say finding for the viewers and listeners here, that if they are hundreds of leadership coach, here across the world. And if you
Mm.
can resonate, you know that on LinkedIn there are a lot of leadership courses. But the point, I think, what Maya you are doing, and it's important for everyone to learn as well, is within that, if you try to find your niche and try to
Yes,
develop, then you
absolutely.
become something different. So it's all about
I
how the
truly
value
agree.
creation, like what is a different you are bringing versus other
Mm.
people, and why a client would approach you rather than other.
Absolutely.
It's not like you
Absolutely.
maybe uh, there are a lot of other things from leadership, but you picked some one category and then
Absolutely.
you start
Absolutely.
and working and
Yeah.
become an expert on that.
Yes, yes, absolutely. You just nailed it, Saurabh. You brilliantly nailed it because once you have identified a niche, and again, like you said, there are so many leadership coaches, but even in the leadership coaching space, am I doing something different? Is
Mhm.
my methodology unconventional? And who is it for? Where what are the applicable scenarios? Which kind of organizations does it work for? Is it only for tech biggies? Is it only for, let's say, retail industry? Or can it also be applicable for, let's say, in educational institution? And the reason why I'm mentioning this to you is also because I have worked with organizations in the healthcare space, in the retail space, in the big four, in the tech world, Fortune 500, BFSI companies. And now a lot of the educational institutions are also approaching me saying that, hey, can you come and develop something for our students? Because we see you are in the space of somatic intelligence, in the space of creativity, innovation, and disruption. So can you do something for our students and develop absolutely a new course from the scratch? And not just one, not just two, many such institutions across India has approached me, and I have been fortunate enough to be invited to XLRI Jamshedpur, which is India's one of the oldest B schools. 75 years they just completed very recently. And I think more than 75 years they've been into the existence, where they have been one of the oldest B schools. And many um, shall we say, famous personality in the world of business, in the world of
Yeah.
entrepreneurship and leadership, have actually been XLRI alum. And I was
Yeah.
really humbled by that experience of and one of the placards that you saw at the background was from XLRI Jamshedpur, where I was being felicitated as a coach and a facilitator. And I got an opportunity to really share about my unconventional journey of being a first time entrepreneur, and really kind of making a mark and selecting a niche where there are not too many people, and something that
Mhm.
I understand well enough to be able to
Mhm.
walk the talk and deliver on it.
That's great. That's great. I think there's so I'm so happy that you have so much of content and progress as we go along, and I'm hopeful that we can continue recording these conversations as we go along in future. Then you will be like, Saurabh, okay, what we have left behind now, I have much more to cover because the things which I continuously strive for. So
So just
considering,
before, yeah, before,
yes,
sort
yes,
of
go ahead.
just wanted to sort of, yeah, just wanted to share and add this, because while I mentioned about XLRI and I also mentioned
Mhm.
about the LinkedIn Top Voice, I would also like to mention about some of two of the other recent awards nominations that I have been able to sort of put in my colorful hat. I would say some new feathers that I've added in my colorful hat. So I was being nominated as the Well-being Entrepreneur of the Year 2023. That was
Wow.
last year by the Restore Awards, and this year I was being felicitated and honored as the Global Woman Leader by CMO Asia in the year
Oh, wow.
2024. So
That's
yes,
great.
and that was again attended by
You're
participants
killing it.
and global leaders from all over the world. And the
Yes.
placard that you see at the background
Yeah.
is actually the one which is the award for the
Which one
CMO
is that?
Asia, the one which is just here at the backdrop of my
Okay,
where I'm
got it, got
sitting.
it. Yeah, there are
Yeah,
a couple
yeah,
of them. I just want to make sure. Okay, cool. That's
yeah.
great. I think so many things. So as we are going towards the tapering end of our conversation, what is your next step? What's the future looks like at this point?
That's an interesting question. I think next step for me is to definitely bag more clients. I mean, I'm a
Mhm.
business owner, of course. That's what I would
Exactly.
do. And so I think for me right now, if you ask me, growth is on my mind, scaling is on my mind, but not at the not compromising quality at any given point in time. For me, it's all about getting good clients. And by
Mm.
good clients, I mean to say I'm not really running behind numbers in terms of, oh, I want to impact X number of lives, etc. But what I'm trying to go after is to do good work, which is impactful. By good work, I mean work that is impactful, work that speaks for itself, and work that gets recognized in platforms like this, which again gets me more work. So that's the virtuous cycle that
Mm.
I'm after.
That's great. Yeah, obviously, bag more clients. So I would really encourage anyone who is listening or viewing this podcast, and if they are part of a corporate or any kind of institution, who thinks that based on what we have converts today, it will Maya definitely provides more value. Please reach out. And that being said, how exactly anyone reach out? What are the mediums? If you can provide some
Sure,
information
sure.
around that.
Absolutely happy to do that. And maybe Saurabh, at the end of it, you can also pin it as a comment on your when you're publishing
I
this.
will. Yeah, show
So
notes. Yeah.
definitely,
Mhm.
they can reach out to me on my LinkedIn. I'm very
Mhm.
much active and most active on LinkedIn. So I do definitely respond to all the DMs. While it may take some time to respond, but I do
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
Or either my EA will respond to it, but you will get a response on that. The other way to reach out to me is actually look me up on my website. We also now have a YouTube channel. On the YouTube channel, you can actually see some of the client testimonials and the work that we do. And there is a video which actually explains the work that we have been doing. And if you
So
really want
what's the
to,
name of the channel of your YouTube?
it's Move with Maya. The name of the
Okay,
channel itself is
Move
Move
with
with
Maya.
Maya.
And I think that is the
Yes,
name of your website as well.
yes, it's Move with Maya.
Movewithmaya.com. And Maya
Yes,
is, can you just help them?
Myah. The spelling of
Yes,
Maya is Myah. Yeah,
yes, M-Y-A-H,
that's
not
the only difference.
M-A-Y-A, because sometimes
Yeah.
people get confused. Yes,
Yes.
just
So
want
just kind of spelling it out, that Move with Maya, it's Move with Myah, Maya.
to.
And so
Mm.
you can go to www.movewithmaya.com or go to YouTube and type Move with Maya. You can find me. And on LinkedIn, it's Maya Payal Mitra, the coach. So yes, these are the three most active ways of reaching out to me. And there is a form on the website as well, where if you can, if you kind of come to see whatever the services that we are offering that is of help and benefit to you, feel free to use that form as well.
Perfect. That's great. Maya, I couldn't be proud because, and for me also, it feels so good for the people whom we met, continuously having these conversations, sharing growth stories, because this reiterate not only your success, but it shows
Hmm.
that things are possible, and it can be possible for me, for you, for everyone. So that being
Absolutely. And I
said,
want to say things are
yes,
possible at any age. I want to
at
add
any
that
age.
because I see myself as a late bloomer. I mean, when I went to
Yeah, we are
XLRI, I was
25
being
something, so that's fine.
I was being surrounded with all 20-year folks, and even the other entrepreneurs, they were all, they all turned entrepreneurs at the age of 18 and 16. And here I was a late bloomer, and I was like, so, this is what it is. It's a diverse panel.
It's
So
diverse, and if someone says it's too late, they have to read the story of KFC, the Kentucky Fried Chicken founder, and just Google and search if you aren't aware, like what that story is all about. So that being
absolutely,
said, again,
absolutely.
Maya, thank you so much for providing your time, sharing your journey. And again, as I mentioned, our podcast is all about not only providing solutions, but providing directions, providing success stories, and not only who are successful, who are in their journeys, because that's where people start learning that some things
Yes,
are natural.
yes,
So
yes.
yeah, again, thank you so much. All the best for your future endeavors, and hopefully, and I'm not saying hopefully, baby. I would say surely we'll be recording more episodes with
Oh,
you
yes. Amen to
later
that.
on.
Amen to that.
Yes.
I mean, thank
Yes.
you so much, Sarah, for really having this, conversation with me once again. And like you said, it's not the destination but the journey that matters. And I'm so glad and happy that we could really come back and again have this conversation from a different vantage point of where I
Yeah.
am in my current journey. And I'm sure, I'm pretty much sure, 1 year later or maybe 2 years later, we would again be sitting here. And who knows, next time you will be the guest on my podcast. So watch out for that.
I'll be more I'll be more than glad and honored. Thank you so much for this invitation. Okay, have a great one then. Yeah.
Thank you. Bye. Take care.
Bye. Bye.